So we are essentially building a mobile app, a digital marketing assistant for small businesses. So that's my background. Today I'll be, there was a switch of sessions. I was going to present second, but last minute change of plans, we switched it. So yeah, before I begin, I'd like to ask, how many of you guys already have a serverless background? All right, just one person, great. So most of you guys are new. Actually, the decision was good. So yeah, so my content will be for beginners, right? So that's why the change of plans. So how many of you guys are students? Right. Okay, most of you guys are students. How many of you guys are interning? Right, a few of you guys. How many of you guys are in a managerial position, like a senior software engineer? Okay, no, wait. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Do you guys would have heard about this serverless, right? Okay. The first question comes to your head. Okay, what the hell is serverless? What does this mean? What does this mean? Should I use it? Shouldn't I use it? What's the use case of it? Right. So where do I begin? So my content will be based on that. I'll break. So since no one have heard about serverless, I'm going to break something out. Serverless doesn't mean there's no server. There is a server, right? There is a server. The thing about serverless is that you don't have to control the server. That's the idea of serverless, right? So you don't have to manage the servers, but there is still a server which runs in the background. All what you need to focus is the functions that you are writing. Oops. How many of you guys use Node.js? I can see a few hands. All right. How many of you guys are working in a Java-based backend? Another few. Python-based backend? Another few. All right. How many of you guys do these pet projects? Right? Who wants to try new things just for the fun of it? Right? Is someone working in a startup here? Or just only one? How many of you guys want to start a startup? Okay, great. Alright, serverless, right? When you guys think about production-based app, right? When you want to release an app, you guys actually have to end up thinking about so many things, right? There is a set of things called containers, scaling, and then you guys have this, platforms, Azure, AWS, big words, right? So what does this serverless do, and what does it help you to? Why does it help you? Right? It's a question. So essentially, when you're building a production app, right, you guys have to think about so many different parameters, right? The scalability, the availability, the administration, things like that. Serverless takes all these barriers out of your head, and it just helps you to focus on the function that you are writing, right? That's what I call it. It might be just a solution that you need, right? You guys do not need to, start thinking about the other problems, the admin problems, right? Few things, right? If you have already written an application, you guys would be knowing, the few glitches or the problems that you guys will be facing, right? First thing is, God damn it, now I need to pay for the service, right? Of course, we've been brought up in a background where you don't want to pay for anything online, right? So the moment that you have to start paying for stuff, right? If you get a VM like $60 a month or something like that, So you feel a little bit annoyed. I need to pay for something which I don't want to, right? So you guys will be having a worry like that. And then if you go to a different end of the world, where you have Kubernetes, the Docker, the containers, right, stuff like that, and you will be worrying about, okay, how do I set the availability? How does this thing going to scale up? What solution should I use? Things like that, right? The next thing is, especially the startups, go through this, right? I call it the future conundrum, meaning that, right, you start thinking about future problems and you will end up doing nothing for the problems that you have right now, right? And the next thing is, if when you start solving this other problem, the admin problem, right, the server maintenance and stuff, right, you're going to spend time solving those problems, and you might not be spending time to solve the actual problem, the actual function that you should be writing, right? So there are these concerns, right? The moment, so serverless actually helps you to get out of these concerns, so that you actually can focus your time on writing the actual app that you want to write. So things, right? The moment that you enter this startup world, right, you want to build something, you have a cool idea, right, and you're building stuff, and people talk about these other problems which I mentioned, and you guys would just want to, build this goddamn app, but you don't want to focus on the other stuff. Alright, here's the cool thing about serverless. This is how I explain, right? You guys have seen this Formula 1 racing, right? So if you are a driver, right, your job is to drive, right? That's what is going to give you credits, right? All the other stuff, maintaining the tires, maintaining different parts of the vehicle is not your job, right? Serverless is something like that, right? The idea of serverless is that the weight of server is taken out of your hand, and your job is to write the function. That's the way serverless. That's the way to look at serverless function, right? All right. So now you guys would be thinking, all right, now I don't have to worry about anything, and I don't have to worry about anything. I just need to write code. Okay, this is so cool. How do I try it? Right? Before we go to that particular thing, right, we need to check out few things, right, which are the caveats, right? Basically, the problems, right? The problems that you will be facing. So let's get into that, right? First thing is, since these serverless, the servers of the serverless functions are not managed by you, you actually don't have control of everything. The first one is basically the restriction on size. You guys will be writing like a couple of GBs of project, right? Actually, serverless have limitations on the size that you can actually have, right? So if you are writing very big applications, serverless might not be the option for you. Second one is the memory usage, which is serverless functions typically are meant to be smaller functions, right? So if there are bigger functions, it might not be of use for you. And serverless has this another annoying thing, whereas there's a time limitation. Whenever a serverless function starts, it needs to end within a particular X amount of time. Usually AWS Lambda has, I think, around 5 minutes or something. Then the next thing is, if you are actually going to debug and monitor, see the logs, right? Serverless functions, it's I would say it's a little bit harder than the other one. You might not be finding the right tools for it, so it's going to be some annoying things for you. Of course, the thing about serverless is when a particular API call happens, the function starts, and then when that API call ends, the function is ended, right? So what does it mean is whenever that you are going to call that API call, it's going to start and start and start and so it resurrects. So it's not going to be immortal where it's going to live forever, right? Now actually, I would say these are the functions. Okay, let me give a little background, right? So 3 months back, we were not using serverless. We tried so many different solutions. You know what? Let me actually give let me just rewind like 1 year back. So I told that I'm working on a startup called Alakazam. At first, we had this same issue, right? We were thinking about, we were thinking about the future problem, right? We need to scale, it needs to be like that. Let's create containers like this. Let's create microservices like this. Let's use Docker. Let's use Kubernetes. Let's go put it in the cloud, right? Let's use G Cloud, right? We tried all of them, right? But what we forgot was we were trying to solve that problem, but we never had chance to write the actual application. Right? The process was delaying, right? And then we said, stop these containers bullshit and let's start building the actual app. And we just got a VM in Google Cloud, right? And we started paying $60, right? So we are doing that, and when we started building the application. And then what happened was, all right, now the application is going, now users are coming, right? Now we totally forgot about this whole thing of scaling up. We said that let's stop all these things and let's concentrate on the application code. So because of that, we totally forgot about everything. So this hit us like 3 months back, right? We said, okay, fine, we have been paying like $120 a month for the VMs, right? And we were just paying for nothing. So we were thinking, okay, how can we cut costs and how can we improve? How can we improve this scaling problem? Right? Then only we heard this buzzword about serverless, and we were thinking, okay, let's try to use this. When we tried to use this, we got a few problems, right? Our backend was in Node.js, and then we basically converted our existing backend to serverless functions. When we tried to do that, essentially these are the practical problems that we faced, right? Basically, you are writing an Node.js application, you will put all your, dependencies, package everything together, and you will have a bloated software, you will have a bloated backend, right? That's definitely more than 512 MB. We started using AWS Lambda, the limit was 512 MB, right? So we had to remove certain dependencies, find alternatives, and do things. Second one is limitations of memory usage. Again, that was another practical problem. We do a lot of optimization algorithm in the backend. So certain math operations requires a large memory, and we had to rewrite the algorithms to use less amount of memory. That's another practical problem that we faced. The time availability, certain function, right? Especially the scraping functions that we had in the backend, it takes more than 5 minutes, right? Then we had to chunk it, make it into smaller functions, and then we ended up using the step functions in AWS. Of course, the problems we are even facing today is the debugging tools, right? The moment that you have, when someone else have your backend code and you don't have control over it, it's pretty hard to debug, right? The logs takes time to come, it's not real time, right? So there are certain practical problems like that, right? So, and then of course, if you are using different languages, there is only limited support for certain languages. And then, now I'm just going to ignore the other two for now, and I'm going to speak about this cold starts, right? Do you understand this word cold start? Anyone understand? Anyone knows what is cold start? No one? Go ahead.
So when the server goes down, it should come up again when the
Yeah. So essentially, it's like this, right? It's like you go to sleep, right? You do your work every day, and you go to sleep, and then you wake up, right? When you just wake up, when someone tells you things, right? It takes time for you to like process that and okay, get up to speed, right? So serverless functions are also like that, right? It just ends, starts, ends, and the moment that it's ended and it's idle for a long time, it just goes to sleep. And when you start again, there is a little bit delay in starting those functions, right? That is the cold start program, right? Since we just answered this, I think I should be giving out this, if I'm not mistaken. About I'll just give it to you. So yeah, I have a bit of feeling, right? I have a bit of feeling that you guys are a little bit lost, right? Okay, this guy is telling, okay, these are the problems, these are the advantages, okay, why the hell should I care, right? I can see that from your faces, so I'm just gonna change the way I'm speaking. Basically, I'm gonna skip certain slides so that it doesn't, it resonates more with you, right? Okay, how many of you guys are actually feeling lost right now? Most of you. Okay, no one is giving answers, so it doesn't mean most of you guys are lost. Alright, I'm gonna pretend that you guys are lost, right? So again, this thing, right? Okay, this guy is coming and telling, okay, these are the advantages, these are the disadvantages. Okay, what the hell is he trying to do? Right? So I was trying to tell you, I'm like this Sri Lankan news medium, like we report, you decide, right? It just totally confuse you. So yeah, I'm actually going to stop confusing you guys. So what I'm going to do is, right? Okay, I think even if I explain these slides, it's going to be a little bit problematic to you. Right? Anyone in this crowd would like to go through that? Because I can actually change the basically. I can show you a real world example. Basically, I can code with you so that you can get up to speed faster rather than reading this or explaining these slides. Anyone of you guys want to go through that? I don't think so. All right. All right, so I'm going to recommend you that you guys should be trying serverless for your next project, right? So keep these, forget about these advantages, forget about these disadvantages, forget about everything, all right? Just go try serverless, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip this. I'm pretty sure that it's going to like confuse you, all right? I can see that in your face. So these are the available vendors, the available frameworks, available languages. Okay, I'm just going to skip everything, right? Because this is not working, right? You guys are like, okay, what the hell is this guy speaking, right? So let's get into action, right? I'm gonna do a live demo of get started guide per se. Basically, I'm not going to create this. I'm just going to copy stuff from internet. I'm going to do it. But I hope that it would help you guys to try out serverless, right? So yeah, I'm just going to skip to that. Alright, before I begin, how many of you guys have used AWS before? Have an AWS account? Okay, a few. Alright, so I probably would be deploying something in AWS now. Alright, basically a simple hello world function or a simple another application. Let's see if the time allows, we can do a little bit more example. So I'm going to assume that you guys have an AWS account, right? If not, or what you can do is you can just go to aws.amazon.com or something like that and just click on sign up, fill in your details, and you may have to enter the credit card if I'm not mistaken, and then verify your account. And I'm going to hope that you guys are going to do that in all along, right? You guys can go and do that at home. So I'm going to assume that you guys did that, right? So yeah. So there is this cool framework, right, which simplifies serverless, right? So you don't have to worry about these vendors like, am I going to use G Cloud? Am I going to use AWS? Am I going to use Azure? Right? You don't have to worry about that. So they have built a framework which helps you to choose this vendor a little bit later. Basically, it's like cross-platform or cross-vendor kind of thing, right? Multiple languages also there. So you can go to this site, it's called serverless.com, and then you can click on sign up, and again enter your name, email address and password and sign up. And the moment that you sign up, I'm gonna assume that you will go to this particular dashboard, right? And from here we can start building, right? Before I begin, does anyone of you have any questions? Okay, everyone's confused. All right, so I assume that you guys are here to like learn about this. So yeah. Are you sure no one has any questions? Great. I'm not sure whether it's great, but yeah. So let's give an application name. Just give me a random name. Angelo. All right. I hope that I pronounced it right. Okay, that sounds bad, so I'm just gonna, because Ruben dash Angelo is not gonna work. Sorry, you know why. So I'm just gonna do test 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay, the application is Alright. So the moment so it's very simple, right? So the moment that you create your app, you will wait. Can you guys actually see this? Let me just zoom in. Alright. People at the back, can you guys actually see this? Cool. Alright, great. So yeah, so you just created one app, so you're presented with this get started guide, right? So now you have to do what you're good at, copy paste. So by the way, I think I missed something, which is I'll be using doing a demo with Node.js, right? JavaScript framework. If anyone of you guys have not tried Node.js, I think you should definitely try it. So to install Node.js, what you have to do is go to just Google search Node.js and just install the package. I think 809 is the latest version. I think 10 is also available right now. So you install Node.js. And then the package manager of Node is called npm, right? So if you want to install anything, all what you need to do is npm install whatever the package name. The -g flag is for global. So you just have to just forget about everything, just install Node.js and just type in this command. I think you're good to go, right? If anyone has any questions or anything, just do not hesitate to stop and ask, because I'm going to assume that you guys know this or you understand this. Yeah. So you copy paste the first line. All right, cool. Then you copy paste the second line, and I'm going to skip that because it will open up admin thing where you have to enter your username and password which you used to sign up for that serverless framework. And then the process ends there, right? So I'm gonna skip the second line because I have already done that. And then what you can do is this is the command, right? To create a bootstrap, a very simple app, right? Right, so the moment that you enter your code, enter that particular piece of code, it automatically generates a project for you, where you'll have these folders called lambda.jtechno and the handler file and the serverless. Okay. How do you zoom in this? Does anyone know how to zoom in this? The VS Code. How do you zoom in? You don't know? Okay. Okay, I found it. Yeah, I found it. Alright, so you have these files with you, right? So just forget about this lambda, right? You don't need to worry about. Okay, I think I opened the wrong file. Actually, that lambda folder should not be there, because I think the folder that I typed in that command, the folder was already there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new folder called mkdir test 1 2 3 cd test. This is an empty folder, and I'm going to type in the same command again. So you should be getting only 3 files, right? No folders. So there's a file called serverless YML. There's a file called handler.js. Of course, it's JTechno, just forget about that. So the serverless file is where you configure the platform or your serverless functions. You introduce your serverless functions, and you give descriptions. Okay, they should be running. And you give names and you do configurations, right? You don't have to be afraid of that, and definitely you don't have to be afraid of the comments they have put over here, right? Just forget about it, So go back to this documentation. It says in your serverless.yml file, be sure to add your app name and the tenant name. I'm just going to copy that. Right. Save. Right, tada, everything is ready, and all what you need to do is deploy this. Right. Alright, so now you guys will be wondering, okay, what is this guy doing? Okay, he went to the serverless.com, he created a project, and then what he did was he copy pasted certain commands. So what I did was the copy pasted certain commands. I installed serverless, the framework, in my machine using npm. That is the first one. The second one is I bootstrapped a blank project, right? The third one is I just copy pasted certain configuration, and then I'm doing a deploy, right? So yeah, it's serverless. So now fun, learn how to. Okay, so it says one thing I missed was in the documentation. I think they also have missed it, where you have to enter your serverless credentials, right? So the AWS credentials, right? So it says the provider is AWS. So what does that mean is if I want to deploy it, I need to give my AWS credentials for it, right? So the way to do that is basically you can go to your Lambda console, the AWS account, and then I think you have to go to my account, and inside my account, if I'm not mistaken, inside my account there should be a path where there's something called secret ID and secret token. I'm not going to do that since it's a secret, right? I'm not going to go there, but so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to so basically those secrets are available. Basically a string, right? A kind of a secret ID and application ID and secret token, right? So I'm just gonna disconnect my PC, and I'm gonna enter those secret IDs and then connect it, right? think that was a bad idea. Stop connecting. Okay. So what I did was, the way to export any environment variable is you just put export whatever the variable and that secret code. I can't portray that here because it's connected to my AWS account, right? So yeah. So you have to do that, and then what you need to do is copy paste this. Deploy again, right? Alright, while that is deploying, I totally missed something, which is I totally forgot to explain this handler.js, right? So while that's deploying, I'm going to use the time stone of Thanos and just go back in time, and I'm going to explain you this handler.js file, right? So as you can see, there is a very simple function over here which says hello, right? And it returns status code 200, and there's a body, right? So all what this function does is just return this string saying go serverless week 1.1, your function is executed successfully, and a particular event which is passed from a context, right? So the function is very simple, only like 10 lines of code. The function name is hello. Function description is here. It returns a simple function which has a status code and a body, right? So anyone, people, if you have already worked on HTTP backends, you guys know, okay, there should be something called the status code, the HTTP status code, and the body is there for any HTTP response, right? So that's what exactly that you are building, right? So very simple function, right? There's a name, it's just there's something called event and context, and it returns something, right? This is actually a serverless function, right? It's very simple, right? There's nothing in it, very bare minimum serverless function. And it has a name saying hello, right? And if you go to serverless.yml, this is how the starting looks like, where you have the service name, the app name, and provider, and then there's something called functions, right? This bit, right? So how many of you guys have used YML format before? Okay, I think I'm going too fast, right? All right. How many of you guys have used JSON before? Right. Okay. YML is something very similar to JSON, right? I would put it like this, right? YML is a JSON without curly brackets, right? So imagine, okay, functions. There's a curly bracket over here, and there's hello. There's a curly bracket over here, right? From the JSON file, just remove the curly brackets, and you will get YML. Right? People just don't want to type another curly bracket, so they invented another form of type of file called YML, right? So how the YML file works is basically it's like this. Basically, how would I say? It's basically indent based, right? So this is the 0th indent, right? So if you go one indent this side, so this will be a subproperty of this. One indent this side, this would be a subproperty of that, right? So since you guys are familiar with JSON, I'm just going to display how this would look in JSON, right? Oops. I'm just going to just go down. Right. now you guys will be clear, right? There's an object here, and there's a property called functions, and it has a property called hello, and it has a property called handler, and the value of that is this. Right? It's essentially exact, the YML version of this particular JSON is this particular bit. Right? Just don't be afraid. Okay, what the hell is this new YML? Right? It's the same thing, right? It's very similar to JSON. Right? So this is where you provide, okay, what are the functions that you have basically in a serverless backend. How many? You have one function, or you have two functions, you have three functions, you have 10 functions, you have 100 functions. You basically can list them down here. Alright. So I have a function named hello, and the handler of that is handler.hello. Handler.hello is basically module.export in handler.js. There's something called hello. So this is the handler file. This handler.hello is this function. So now you have basically defined a function, right? There's a function called hello, and the handler of that function maps to handler.hello, which is this particular hello, right? Inside handler file, a function called hello. So that's what you have defined. I'll actually do a few more examples so that you will be like, more clear. So, alright, so, okay, so I did now, okay, use time zone back again and, come to future. Now I type in SLS deploy, and these things runs, right? And it's gonna say, okay, it says successfully published, right? So I'm just gonna click on that link. Which is going to lead me to my dashboard of serverless platform, and it's going to say AWS Node.js. Okay, there is one function, right? There's a project called AWS Node.js, and it has one function, right? And it was last deployed 6 minutes ago, right? Now that okay, there is one function, okay, random function, you just created one. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, how do I test it? How do I look at it? Right? To do that, right, you need to you need to put a particular path, right? In APIs, you will have an endpoint, you will have a path, right? Path, and in an HTTP world, you have a path and a HTTP verb, whether it's a get, post, put, or delete, right? Whatever it is. So you need to define that. So to do that, what you need to do is, you need to go back to your YML. Inside, below this handler, right? If you actually look at this particular comments, they have actually given the examples. So I'm just going to copy paste that. So I just copy pasted a block from here, and I put it there, and it's going to say, okay, events. What are these events? Events are basically whatever the things which can trigger that particular function, right? The Lambda functions can be triggered through multiple means. Either you can call an HTTP endpoint, or you can call an Alexa skill to start that, or you basically can use a scheduler to run a particular, every 10 minutes you run that, right? There are different ways to start this function, right? One of the ways through HTTP code, right? So I basically defined a path, and I basically defined the HTTP verb, right? And I'm gonna save this, right? And I'm just gonna delete whatever thing that I wrote here. I'm gonna deploy this again. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. So yeah, now, so I'll demonstrate. Okay, wait, actually, you know what, I'm just gonna wait for a while, drink some water. Oops. is successfully published, and it also you can as you can see it says there's an endpoint which is created, right, which is an AWS endpoint, right. So essentially what I can do is I can click on that link, right, and there is some jargon over here, so I'm just gonna zoom in. Right, so I don't know whether you can read this endpoint. There is like, something API dot, there's a useast.amazon.aws.com/dev/hello, right? So I basically created in serverless YML, I created a function called hello, which has a handler which maps to handler.hello. So that is essentially inside the file called handler.js. There is a function defined called hello, which returns status code 200 and a body which has message go serverless blah blah blah, and there's another input property, right? And this particular function, right? This particular function can be triggered through the following events. What are those following events? An HTTP code, right? What is that HTTP code? Whatever the HTTP code which has a path called hello, alright, and a method called get. So essentially, whatever the thing that you enter in your Chrome address bar, it goes as get calls to that particular endpoint, right? So what I did was, the moment I deployed, right, I got the URL, okay, blah blah blah. This got deployed to this URL. This has basically /dev. After that, the endpoint starts hello. You click on that. You are doing a get request, and it returns this. It has a property called message go serverless. Your function is executed, and the input has a set of parameters which basically tells you, about your account details, about what is the browser that you are using. For example, it says Apple WebKit, Chrome, basically whatever the user agent function. The user agent will be there. The query parameters. Basically, bunch of other jargons that you might not need right now. Right? Just ignore that, right? So essentially, we have now actually created a serverless function, right? So we did something, we copy pasted something, right? And then we define an endpoint, and now you can access this, right? Now you can go and play around with this, right? So I'm gonna do, instead of this whole jargon, right? I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna change the message saying, hey guys, I'm gonna redeploy this, right? So it's just that simple, right? You install serverless, you create a project with a bootstrap boilerplate project, right? There's certain set of configurations there. You just change the configuration, and you just type in serverless deploy, right? And it does all this magic for you, right? And then it gives you an endpoint, right? Now I go here and I refresh this, right? So essentially we are good to start, right? We are good to start. We have gone from 0 to 1. Now it's a matter of taking 1 to million, right? So let's do a few more examples, right? Okay, I don't know whether do I have time for this, organizers? Is there anyone who can just remind me of the time I have taken so far? Is there anyone over there? Okay, none of the organizers are here, so I'm going to take my time. Yeah. So I'm just going to create another function, right? Another function. Yeah, I'm very bad with this, handling this monitor. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste this, right? So Okay, now let's create a new function, right? Let's name this function. Someone give me a good name. Any good names? Come on, guys. You guys are like total dead, right? Is it because you guys are confused? That's, accidentally you told my brother's name. Really? Hey, dude. Right? So I'm just gonna name this like open brackets, right? I'm gonna call it open brackets. I hope open brackets, right? So I just created a thing called open bracket. Basically, I renamed hello to open brackets, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm just going to change that thing, right? I'm going to save this file, go to serverless, all right? Copy this set of file, right? So basically, I wanted to create another function. What I did was went to handler file, copy pasted the same function, renamed that, come to serverless YML, right? Again, copy pasted the set of block over here, right? Created another function and named it as open brackets, and I mapped it to this function which I created over there, and events, the path I put as by, right? So I'm gonna save this. I'm going to do a service display again, right? I actually could do a few more examples, but I feel I actually saw only very few hands going up for these people who have already used Node.js. So I don't think so it will be a great idea for me to continue on that, because those are like Node.js specific stuff. So I'm going to skip that, right? So I'm just going to ask this question one more time again. How long did I take now? So I'm 6:41, so I'm gonna, okay, I took almost like 15 minutes, is it? I don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna assume because the event was supposed to start at 5:30, so it got delayed 5:45 now, okay, yeah. So it's almost an hour, all right? So this is going to be my last function. So while, the usual thing, right, the server admin, you deploy and you just wait until it, goes and publishes. So while that is happening, I would ask, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, great.
Can't we use something like Google Firebase for this one? Something like Google Firebase for this one?
All right, how would I say? Of course you can use, right? The thing about here is, right, as I said before, you can use anything. You can use, you can think of different patterns, right? You can think of having your own server, having a Docker container, having a Heroku kind of thing, right? Or totally forget about the backend and use the backend as a service, like Firebase, right? You can use it. You totally can use it, but it totally depends on the use case, right? In Firebase actually has something called it's called how do you call that? Cloud functions, right? Basically, AWS Lambda function is very similar or same as cloud function, right? They have different vendors, right? So what the example I did was using AWS. Of course, you can use Firebase cloud function, right? So it totally depends, right? If you think that is easy, you actually can use it, right? So since you asked that question, I'm gonna give you a few more stickers. Right? Please, guys, if you guys want stickers, just go ahead and ask questions, right? There's like a lot of things. These guys are going to like, okay, you didn't ask questions and no one answered anything, and you didn't give out these stickers, right? So I'm urged to give out these stickers. So if anyone has any questions, alright, great. Of course. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'll share my presentation as well as whatever the code I wrote today in the Facebook group, right? So So I'll share it in the Facebook group, so you actually can take it and use it. So again, since you asked those questions, I think like I'm just going to give away these stickers to anyone who asks questions, like what's the day today, right? Alright, are you going to ask what's the day today? Okay.
Passing a parameter. So here when you put a get method, you put a parameter.
Yes, you actually can do that. Alright. Same syntax, right? So here slash, I think you can do something like this, right? If I'm not mistaken, I actually can give you a good example. Right? I think they have. Again, there's no example over there. So there's a syntax like this. So same question that you asked, I'm going to ask Google search. Google, right? Right. Passing parameter meter to serverless, right? So what I'm trying to showcase is that, right? Any question that you guys have, right? You either can ask someone or you either can ask Google, right? So if you actually see, I'm trying to just put the example which they have. Like he's just asking me to like get out. Okay, you actually could find it here. Actually, this is how we pass the exam parameter, right? So you actually can go to Google and you will find the same example. You can put curly brackets and pass the parameter. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, one more.
Can't we connect more than one computer for the same solution?
I'm not following you.
Can't you connect more than one computer? I mean,
As in?
yeah. Can't I access the same server or something through my computer?
No, I'm not actually following you. As in,
Now you are writing the code and giving output now. Can't I get the access for your output?
So yes, you actually can. Whatever the functions over here, what is exposed over here are public. So the code that you write, everyone can access it. So since I have taken like way too much time, right? I'm gonna stop it here. If you guys have any questions, just after this you can contact me either through email or I'll be just here. You can come and speak to me. So yeah, see you guys. So this guy is trying to, okay, I'm gonna ask a random question, right? So basically there's a club t-shirt, right? So if anyone wants, I totally forgot to give out these stickers for you and for you. So I'm just trying to come up with a question. You, okay, I'm sorry. So yeah. That t-shirt is going to go for anyone who answers this particular question. It's a very opinionated question, right? So far, according to my presentation or whatever thing that I told, right? Someone who can expressively explain what serverless is or what are the use cases of that within like 2 minutes, that t-shirt is going to go to that person. Was that a big task? I thought. Alright.
I'm not sure if it's correct, but a server would be the place where complex functions would be carried out off-site.
Yeah. No, what exactly is serverless? At least you tried, right? So, is anyone going for it? Is anyone going for it? Alright, let's go.
Server would be a place where you store data for a specific institution, but in serverless
No,
case,
okay, go ahead.
you don't have to maintain that specific server by you just can just give some task to maintain go on its own.
Okay, a better version of that. Is there anyone else who would like to go for it? I don't think so. I'm just running out of time, so I think that Tisha should go to this. Yeah. Yeah. You're essentially right? Whereas basically serverless is basically the idea of not managing the server and just concentrating on the function. That's the gist of it. Yeah.